very quick and thorough look at what WSU does in the research dimension of our university. Friday night, we will commence we're not going to commence. We're going to conclude Showcase Week with our Celebrating Excellence Recognition Banquet in the Senior Ballroom. If you really look at the list, and I actually plowed through the list of 60 people who have addressed their colleagues in this event over the years, and it really is kind of the who's who among faculty and emeritus faculty at Washington State University. So this is an honor that I felt a little bit guilty when I called Susmita, because most of the award calls I make, I say, you're getting an award and you're getting a check, and they're like, and so you say that, but then you say, and you also have to present an address, but it is really very much an honor for our faculty who are recognized in this way. The criteria for this honor include that the faculty member have a national and international distinction for original contributions to their discipline, receipt of extramural support if available, national and international service, and achievements in undergraduate and graduate education. So I'd like to thank the members of the Distinguished Faculty Address Selection Committee this year for their work in identifying our honoree. Those included the chair, who was Greg Yasnitsky, Susan Finley, Tom Power, Rich Zach, Tim Kohler, and Mike Wolcott. So we thank you all for your contributions to the selection and to the success of this event in 2018. Our presenter today rose to the top of the nominations with her outstanding commitment to progressive research and dedication to the advancement of Washington State University. She holds the Herman and Britta Lindholm Endowed Chair Professorship in the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. Susmita Bose has published over 210 technical articles, including over 160 journal articles, 5 book chapters, 6 edited books, 3 issued patents, and several more in the pipeline. For a complete description of her, for a summary description of her accomplishments, hopefully you received the card when you entered the room. She's received funding from the NSF, the NIH, the Office of Naval Research, the Washington Technology Center, the Murdoch Charitable Trust, and the Keck Foundation, to name just a few. For her contributions to bioceramics, which we're going to hear a lot about today, it's a pretty exciting topic, she earned the Swartzwalder Professional Achievement Award in Ceramic Engineering, the Richard M. Fulrath Award from the American Ceramic Society, the International Society for Ceramics in Medicine Research Excellence Award, and she was recently recognized and inducted into the National Academy of Inventors. So please join me in recognizing this year's recipient of the Faculty Address Recognition, Dr. Susmita Bose.
the award selection committee for giving me this big honor. I'm extremely humbled and honored to be here to speak with you today. I lost my voice about a couple of days back. I got sore throat. So I will see how I can manage. I kept telling them that please have my microphone really tongue tied up. As you see, my first slide is colorful. I wanted to start this presentation on a very colorful note. We see balloons everywhere, and on the very left-hand side, that's the cover page of American Scientific Magazine for March 2018 issue, this month issue. That's from our group. So I thought that it will be appropriate to put this up here. So I'll talk about 3D printing in bone health. Before I go into the research presentation, I must acknowledge the funding agencies and the students' collaborators. Without those, I would not be here today. Our research has been funded by NIH, NSF, some of the foundations, as well as industry foundation. I like to acknowledge my collaborators. First one, Professor Amit Bandyopadhyay, who is sitting in the back here in this room. Lifelong collaborator, 24 hours of togetherness, my husband and colleague in the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. Professor Bill Darnell, he is in College of Veterinary Medicine. Without his generous support towards interdisciplinary research for our engineering graduate students, there is no way we could really do this interdisciplinary research involving animal research, biology, medicine, as well as engineering and science. So I like to acknowledge his generous support towards our students and his time. There are a few students who have already graduated. I'll present their research. Dr. Tarupta, Dr. K, Dr. Roy. Dr. Tarupta is in Columbia, Dr. K is in Wake Forest Institute of Medicine, and Dr. Roy is a professor in IIT Kharagpur. Dr. Vahab Zadeh, she is a professor in NIU, Northeastern Illinois Technology University. And I do have some of the current students. Ms. Banerjee, I know that I see most of them here. Ms. Sarkar, Ms. Wu, they are here, I see them. And Ms. Koski, Caitlin Koski, and Mr. Robertson, Sam Robertson, and Gary Fielding, he has graduated, and Bonnie. I will, as I go through the slides, some of the slides, I will mention who is doing what on the research slides. I'm also very fortunate to learn some of these from some of these collaborations with the physicians from Mayo Clinic, Stanford Med School, and University of Washington Med School. We must recognize this. Without this type of interdisciplinary collaboration, we can never bring application of technology in human health. So the very left-hand side picture that you are seeing, it's May 2013 magazine picture, which really talks about that today's babies are going to live 120 years. National Geographic magazine, which means that without considering the race or ethnicity, that's what we are going to see over the years. However, as we become experienced and wiser, I don't like to use the term as we age or grow older. I like to say as we become wiser and experienced, our bone loses density. It becomes more and more porous, which creates a lot of physical problem in our body. One of them, as you see here on the right hand side top picture, wearing out of cartilage or due to porous bone. This neck fracture in the hip stem neck is very common, the hip stem neck. And at that point, the physicians don't have any other choice but to go for total hip replacement surgery. So that calls for research. What happens with our, some of the body parts if we can replace with today's engineering technology. In our case, we make bone implant material or bone graft material which can replace some part of bone to have their functional and mechanical properties to perform in our body. So I'll start with a very brief definition and architecture composition of bone. Bone has outside part of bone is thick cortical bone which takes the high load. Inside part of bone is porous bone which is called cancellous bone, which has lower strength, lower modulus. In terms of composition, bone has a lot of calcium phosphate, about 70% calcium phosphate it has, which is a ceramic. So if you know of the cereal bottle, it says calcium fortified, it has calcium phosphate in it. So our bone has about 70% calcium phosphate in it, about 20% collagen, 8 to 9% water, and some organics and trace elements of metal ions. That is in terms of materials level. However, the bone cells that if we look at this at the cellular level, bone has two main types of cells: osteoclast, which is a bone eating cell, and osteoblast, which is a bone forming cell. What you are seeing here on the left hand side with lot of philopodia, you are seeing that the osteoclast, it secretes acid, it eats away bone, whereas the osteoblast, which forms bone, this remodeling of bone, it goes on since our birth. So what happens with time, osteoclast bone eating cell activity, it takes over osteoblast cell activity, and that is why that disbalance in bone remodeling takes place and bone becomes lower dense and more porous with time. So it is very important that we restore our bone density with exercise and food habit in the early part in our life, because it becomes more and more challenging with time. Here are some of the materials that you see, particularly calcium phosphate ceramic based material. As you are seeing on the top left, the calcium phosphate ceramics and composite, which are used for spinal fixation. In the bottom, you are seeing something on the craniofacial application. Calcium phosphates, or in general ceramic materials, being brittle in nature, usually they are not used in load bearing application like hip or knee as a total implant, or it is not used for a big bone defect. So it is used in low load bearing application, whether it is craniomaxillofacial, dental, or as coating, as you were seeing in the bottom middle picture, on metallic implant to make it body friendly or more biologically friendly on the metal. On the right hand side, you are seeing a 4-part hip implant. On that, you are seeing that the ceramic coating at the stem of this hip stem. The 7-7 statistics, it talks about 7% of all the surgeries. We have about 1 million bone grafting procedures in the US alone every year. So 7% of that will be about 70,000. They come back for replacement surgeries within 7 years, which is a big number. So which calls for research in this area. So I'm going from here move to 3D printing. I know all of you have heard this particular term in today's world. What is the clinical significance of this? The clinical significance of 3D printing is if the physician have the CT MRI scan of the bone defect, if an engineer can get that, from that you can create CAD file, convert it to STL file, send it to the 3D printer, and it can build the part based on the defect. So using 3D printing, one can make patient-specific or defect-specific implant. That's the primary clinical significance of 3D printing in human health. Now, depending on which site in our body, whether load bearing or non-load bearing, how big the defect is in our body, one needs to choose what material you are going to use. Like metal can bear load, ceramic can bear load under compression, but it's not good under tension, and polymer is good for soft tissue. So for the hard tissue, mostly you would use either metallic implant for load bearing site or polymer ceramic composite implant or ceramic implant depending on the site and the size of the defect. So one can use 3D printing actually. As I go through the presentation, you will see we can make both bulk and surface. We can control both bulk and surface properties of implant material. On the right hand side, you are seeing the 3D printed ceramic parts. Those are made in our lab. Small prototype of hip stem, pelvic bone, and WSU logo. If you take a closer look of pelvic bone, it really shows how critically one can create 3D printed part with so much complex geometry. And the bottom one, it is a real life example using porous polymer and porous metallic implant. Someone who had a motorcycle accident, bicycle accident, and lost 1/3 of the skull. PI of this work, I must acknowledge Professor Amit Bandyopadhyay, who is sitting here. So we were contacted by a surgeon from the other side of the world, and we developed this implant which can go into the skull. If you notice 3D printed implant, you will see that oftentimes they are made porous, and primary reason for that is, one, it can reduce the weight where you do not need weight, and two, sometimes the pores on the side, it gives the surgeon the flexibility to use a suture. And three, of course, if you are using 3D printed scaffold material, it also helps with host tissue growth as well as blood vessel formation, nutrient transport. So using 3D printer, you can control both chemistry and geometry of a part. I have very traditional type of presentation today. I do not have any video. So what you are looking at on the left hand side, it is in our lab, this particular machine, ceramic 3D printer. It uses a powder bed process which goes in the Z direction, and on the top, as you see, is the polymer binder nozzle which moves in the XY direction. So the part is being made within the calcium phosphate powdered bed based on the drawing that you have on the computer. So once it is built, you take it out, dry it, get rid of that polymer binder, densify the ceramic part to get the strength. So that's how we made those parts. So we made some simple parts with scaffolds, calcium phosphate, which is a bone-like material, as we have in our bone, about 70% of our bone. I'm going to point out the areas where you can focus. The orange and red color that you are seeing, orange color is the control sample, red color is the chemistry modified calcium phosphate. We did this study using rat distal femur model to show how the bone growth takes place within this porous 3D printed bone-like scaffold. So 4-week to 16-week study, in all cases we saw that chemistry modified scaffold showed higher bone growth and bone area. The 16 weeks you are seeing only the orange line on the left hand side plot because we could not differentiate the newly grown bone after 16 weeks. It was amazing to see. We also looked at blood vessel formation. The blood vessel formation is needed for any defect to heal in our body, and we saw that chemistry has a tremendous effect on blood vessel formation within these porous 3D printed bone-like scaffolds compared to the control, which is the green bar. So I know that I told you what happens in the cellular level. So just to connect the dots, what happens in the materials level. So what you are seeing on the top part, the calcium phosphate based porous scaffold, so it's called dissolution precipitation process. What does it mean? Calcium phosphate, our body is actually the best corrosive environment. We have 37 degrees centigrade temperature, body temperature, and we have salt in our body. So salt and temperature, it corrodes the material, okay, whether it is metal or ceramic. So ceramic materials, it actually dissolves in the microenvironment and it also precipitates back to form the new bone, as the osteoclast bone eating cell and osteoblast bone forming cell, as they are working together. So there is a cellular level activity, there is a chemical level of activity in terms of bone remodeling. So what I just told you, we have made these scaffolds to promote osteogenesis or bone growth within these scaffolds. We have also shown we can form blood vessel within these scaffolds. I haven't shown a lot of mechanical property data. We have actually already shown a few years back that we were able to achieve cancellous bone strength. In fact, around 2011, 2012, this gave us a lot of publicity, our group research. It came out over 200 news sites, magazine, as well as BBC, NBC, CBS, all news channels. They covered this research in 2011, 2012. So now what I just told you is bulk ceramic scaffold on the left hand side. I also mentioned they have brittle nature. So what can we do? In the middle one is porous metal implant, which I'll not talk in very detail today. And the right one is the coated implant, which is basically ceramic coating to make it bone friendly. So to take care of or to address brittle nature of ceramic scaffold, recently we have developed this double head printer in our lab. Bonnie and Caitlin, they are working in this area to make polymer ceramic composite to reduce the brittleness of ceramic, and we have already shown that we can get to cancellous bone without doing any post processing of these scaffolds directly from the printer. It is not published yet. We have also shown that we can, in terms of the surface chemistry modification, that we can use calcium phosphate to coat metal implant surface and just nanoscale surface modification of the metal implant to make it more body friendly. Right now I have in the audience Ashley, Dishari, I don't see Sam here. So they all are working on this calcium phosphate coated implant. So whenever we talk about any coated implants, there are really a couple of very big concerns. One is how can we control or have the coating substrate interface strong so that the coating does not fall off in the body because you want it to bind with the host tissue, right? So how can we really control the interfacial strength of the coating? Crystallinity, if it is not crystalline, it will fall off. And can we use those for coating antibiotic or any other drug or chemistry control? So this work was actually done by Dishari is here. So this is part of work where we made the porous metal implant, we coated it, the surface nanoscale modification, then we coated the chemistry modified calcium phosphate on top of it in the block of 4 images in the rat distal femur model. The green one that you are seeing, that is basically bone grown with the chemistry modified surface within the coated implant. So this paper should be accepted anytime. So to change the gear a little bit, we also used these scaffolds as well as coatings for drug delivery. We started with antimicrobial silver, some of the dopants, chemistry control, which controls osteogenesis, bone growth, or angiogenesis, blood vessel growth. We did some alendronate study. Alendronate or bisphosphonate drug, some of you may know this. It is a widely used drug, prescribed medicine by the physicians for osteoporosis. Clinical science already show that after taking bisphosphonate drugs for 4 to 5 years, actually our bone becomes more fragile because the way it works is it stops osteoclast or bone eating cell activity. So it kills the bone remodeling cycle. So not many physicians are very enthusiastic about prescribing that alendronate drug anymore or bisphosphonate based. There are many forms of bisphosphonate, alendronate, zoledronate, and same thing. For statin, it is a cholesterol lowering drug like lovastatin, simvastatin. However, recent research has shown that it can have some effect on bone growth. So we looked at some of these drugs for osteogenesis and we saw some nice results. But recently, this is actually one of my hobbies as well, learning about natural medicinal compound. For the last 2 days, I'm actually trying to, that's the way I got my voice, at least I could talk today. Ginger, clove, honey, and curcumin, there are like few things I use, and that's the only way actually I can keep our boys away from doctor's office. And I'm very passionate about it. I don't think I can express that in word. So I told some of my students, why don't you look at whether curcumin or aloe vera or some of these natural medicinal compound, extract them, put those on 3D printed scaffolds, see what happens. So, and along with vitamins C and D. Whenever we talk about any drug release, there are a few things that we need to keep in mind. Release kinetics, dose, bioavailability. Is the drug soluble in our physiological environment, and biocompatibility. Along with half-life of the drug, which is also very important. I know it is a crowded slide, so the point that I'm trying to make here is we use the porous scaffold on the top left, you are seeing. We used polymer to control the release kinetics. Some of them you can see the steep release kinetics, some of them you can see a little slow on the right hand side plot. So we control release kinetics, and which using polymer. This is also a concern with ceramic material. It tends to show very fast release kinetics. On the top right, the red one you are seeing, those are all newly grown bone in porous scaffold in rat distal femur model. And the bottom plot is, I know it is crowded, all it is showing is wherever this red and the yellow bars, what you are showing, it is showing different composition, and wherever we had alendronate in the composition, it showed higher bone area. That is because osteoclast alendronate actually subsided osteoclast activity. That's what we expected. And osteoclast, remember, it's a bone eating cell, so it stopped the bone eating cell activity. We also looked at some of this silver. Silver we know for thousands of years it shows antibacterial activity, right? So we showed that we can load some of these silver on coatings as well as scaffold, showing whether they can kill the bacteria. On the very first one, left top, you are seeing the green, basically where bacteria that's alive without any silver, and the other ones, other three shows basically silver is killing the bacteria. We are trying to optimize how much silver is needed to kill the bacteria. At the same time, do not have any adverse effect on the actual bone cell. And we looked at the release kinetics. What we showed is we can control the release kinetics based on processing. So here comes some of the natural medicinal compounds. The saffron one, it got deleted. It got, I don't know, on this computer here after I plugged in. So we are also working on saffron, curcumin, gooseberry, aloe vera, and garlic. 3 or 4 of these right now we have research going on. So, and first we started with vitamin D, showing some of you can ask me that, well, bone has discontinuous porosity, and you are showing with 3D printed scaffold which are continuous, very designed porosity. So what we are looking at, and Ashley is working on this, that how does it compare if we have continuous porosity versus random porosity. And vitamin D, you may know this, it's very important for bone health, as important as calcium. So it is very important. So we are looking at using these two. How does it work? The vitamin D release, and we have shown with polymer, it works better release kinetics. This is a paper manuscript just got accepted last week in press. With curcumin, we have used Dishari and Navonita, they have worked on this. We have the stem, we use the stem, hip stem coated as well as 3D printed scaffolds. Curcumin is the main ingredient of turmeric. And what you are seeing in the bottom, control TCP versus TCP with curcumin. The red and green color in rat distal femur model, after 6 weeks, we saw significant bone growth in the curcumin samples compared to control samples. We did the same study, similar study using coated implant. Dishari extracted asamanan from aloe vera in the lab, and that's what we showed. It is titanium. Red and green color on the rightmost image shows the bone growth. So porous titanium, black is the metal. In between is hydroxyapatite, which is a calcium phosphate, bone-like material. And the extreme right one is the picture with image with aloe vera in rat distal femur model. We have also shown that we can control kinetics, release kinetics using polymer. So we are looking at actually some of these cell cultures right now using both osteoblast, different types of co-culture in the system. Main thing that actually no one knows yet, what happens in the signaling pathway. We have published a couple of articles, and there is a long way to go. Wind signaling pathway is one of the common accepted mechanism that scientists they think. Calcium channel. So we are still trying to figure out, looking at some of these protein expression studies, like RUNX2 bone morphogenic protein, vasculoendothelial growth factor. Those are actually proteins which are responsible for either bone growth or blood vessel growth. So we are looking at some of these protein expressions to see if we can shed light towards understanding what is happening in the cellular level. So looking into the future, it is an interdisciplinary field of research, physical, chemical, biological, all scientific field, professionals from different scientific fields, they need to work with engineering as well as medical science, professionals from medical sciences. So it is very important to understand each other's disciplinary issues. There are issues like material development and design, software modification or machine modification, because no one machine actually can do the same 3D printing of different parts with different material. It goes to the basic science level of material properties due to different types of bonding in materials, whether it is metals or ceramics or polymers or composite. So the machines are going to be always different, 3D printers for different materials, but there are some hardware and software development still needed. In the education level, we need to have students educated in interdisciplinary field of research, and we do need effective collaboration between industry, academia, and medicine, because the industry members, they need to feel, or they need to have a vision for an viable economic pathway to take the lab research to the patient's bedside, something that the physician is going to be comfortable to put in their patient's body, right? And that's our recent book, where the chapters were written by physicians from Mayo Clinic, Stanford Med School, UW Med School, scientists, engineers. It was our vision for many years, where we can put together thoughts of different professionals together. Even though I'm telling this, some of my last very few favorite slides, it is difficult to mimic Mother Nature, and you don't want these materials in your body, right? So, regular exercise and healthy food habit and sleep, we all need it. Some of my comments to the students, I see there are many students in this room. Dream big, plan, work hard, know your priorities. At every stage in our life, our priorities are different. Persevere and stay focused to achieve your goal. Very close topic to my heart, work-life balance. Oftentimes I hear work-life balance for women, but you know what? It's important for men as well. We tend to forget that. For any family, institute, or unit to be successful, both genders, they need to realize this. In family, we all need to realize that we are working for the family, not just for the other half, for the spouse. It is doing for the family, right? So I can talk probably 45 minutes on that. I'm not going to do that. So it's very important to keep up with a hobby. My hobby is learning natural medicinal compound and music. WSU marketing department, communication department, they did a great job on developing this website, Ingenuity, for 125-year anniversary. They really made me look so good. And those are some of the pointers I had. So I know that you see I have this harmonium here. I have to acknowledge Dr. Melissa Parkhurst, who is sitting here. She called me last fall, Susmita, would you give a guest lecture in my world music class on Indian classical music? I said, sure. I mean, I love music. That's my passion. And I taught both our boys. Actually, she heard our elder one singing John Lennon's Imagine, and she was almost in tears. They are my pride. And in music, I taught them from age 4, both of them. So I told her, sure, I'll be glad to. So there are some language, probably you will see here, which are not science or engineering language. But Melissa, I had to make this slide the way I would give this presentation in the music class. So I will try, because I lost my voice. The second part, what you are saying, it's a song written by Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. from India, and most of his songs are very philosophical songs. This is one of my favorite songs. It's based on Alaya Bilawal, classical Indian raga. The time you sing this, first prohar of the day, which is 6 to 9 a.m. And main difference, Bilawal is a raga, Indian raga, which is taught most of the beginners. All notes from sa to sa, all notes are Suddha, which is pure and normal. While coming down, Avroho, that is the only Komolni it uses. That's the difference between Bilawal and Alaya Bilawal. So this is the song which is based on Alaya Bilawal. So let me see if I can try, okay? I'll do the first 2 lines. If I see that my voice is not cooperating, I'll stop. So this is not the song, the meaning that is written below. So I'm starting with the Avroho of Alaya Bilawal, just to check whether my voice is cooperating or not. Sa ni dha pa, dha ni dha pa, ma ga ma re sa. Jagote anondo joge amar nimantran ধন্য হলো মানব জীবন জগতে আনন্দ যোগে মারিনি মন প্রাণ নয়ন আমার রূপের পুরে স্বাদ মিটাই বেড়াই ঘুরে নয়ন আমার রূপের পুরে স্বাদ মিটাই বেড়াই ঘুরে শ্রবণ আমার গভীর সুরে হয়েছে মগন জগতে আনন্দ যোগে আমার নিমন্ত্রণ তোমার যোগে দিয়েছ ভার বাজাই আমি বাঁশি গানে গানে গেথে বেড়াই প্রাণের কান্না হাসি এখন সময় হয়েছে কি সভায় গিয়ে তোমায় দেখি এখন সময় হয়েছে কি সভায় গিয়ে তোমায় দেখি জয়ধ্বনি শুনিয়ে যাব এ মোর নিবেদন জগতে আনন্দ যোগে আমার নিমন্ত্রণ I made it. Thank you. So my mother really wanted me to learn how to sing, both of us. I have to, of course, to parents, you can never say thanks, right? Because their contribution to our life is really not expressed, it cannot be expressed in words. Both boys, because of them, I came back to music after almost 10-12 years when I did not sing or touch harmonium, because I wanted to teach them. I wanted them to love music. I know that they do love music. It's a great stress relaxing element. I want them to carry forward, because in today's complex world, we all need something other than our work. And Amit, yesterday I asked him, can you really tell me whether I should sing tomorrow or not? I feel so good when I see that, whether it is Amit or the kids, they fall asleep when I'm singing, because I can see that it gives them peace. Last but not the least, most important slide of my presentation. Two boys. Shoham is not here. He is in school playing tennis. Aditya is here. The top one in the air in Mexico last year. 2 years back in India, the left one top. The bottom left with my mom in Yellowstone 2 years back. I don't know what happened. I think it's the connection. I can see it on my computer. Yeah, it is the connection is getting loose or something. Yes, it's here. It's back here. Yeah.
More slides, yeah.
It's the last one, the slide. That's okay. Okay. Oops. What is that? No. That's not the slide. Okay. So basically, I'll live with it. I just want to leave you on this note. On the right hand side, I had the picture, another family picture of all the students who are here. I want to leave you with a note that life is a journey. Celebrate life. We should enjoy our work. At the same time, we should celebrate life as well. Thank you so much for your attention. Go Cougs.
So thank you for sharing your research and sharing a piece of your life with us. That's really, really beautiful. So we certainly have time for questions, and thank you for your courageousness in terms of making the talk with your voice and then continuing to present the music. So some questions for Susmita. Okay, I'll ask one to break the ice, because this applies to anybody in the room. And you obviously are, if you remember the 3-circle Venn diagram, and the interdisciplinary research that you've been so successful with. Can you share with faculty, in particular our students, some of the, if you will, success formula that you might have in building those type of research relationships successfully, and what you found works, and I'm sure you've had some things you found that don't work.
Very good question. Can I just get my water bottle?
Yeah.
For successful interdisciplinary research, one thing you need, or we all need, is collaborators. Collaborators who understand each other's critical issue. Number one. Number two, I give a lot of students the credit who are courageous enough to make material, characterize them, whether mechanical materials characterization, do the biological characterization in our lab, and then go to the vet med, do the surgeries themselves. So we don't make the material and hand it over to the other researcher. So they have to realize and understand the value of interdisciplinary research and interdisciplinary education. I will put myself at the bottommost point because I'm very passionate about not only chemistry but also materials, mechanical and medicinal aspects of different natural compounds for healing or physiological healing. So these three, they can only play together most effectively. That would be my answer, if that makes sense.
Great answer. Other question?
When you began your education, did you have this passion as well to go into the medical field, or did you find your course changed throughout your education?
WSU did a great job on writing that ingenuity story. When I was growing up, when I was in middle school, I wanted to come to America to do PhD. And they really made such a nice biography for me. So all I knew at that time, I want to come to America to do my PhD. So I came to Rutgers, and I loved chemistry at that time. I came to Rutgers. After 3.5 years, I met Amit. We got married. He got a position, tenure track position here at WSU. I was still doing my PhD. At that time, I was thinking, how can I use my chemistry, knowledge of chemistry, to more towards something towards more applied, or towards more of towards health or societal benefit. So Amit coming here, and after my PhD, when I joined WSU, that gave me an opportunity to excel where my passion was. So do I say that when I was growing up, whether I wanted to do medical research or not? No. When I was growing up, in my 9th, 10th grade, I loved chemistry. In my 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I wanted to come to America to do PhD. And then planning and hard work, I would tell everyone, planning and hard work is one thing. Another thing is, sometimes not every plan works out. Take the opportunity. If you get an opportunity that is in line with your career goal, professional as well as personal, take it, try it before you say no. When I came to Pullman, I never thought that I'll stay here for 20 years. I moved here from New York, New Jersey area. I appreciated Pullman, and I tell this to younger faculty members who joined WSU. I appreciated Pullman only after I became a mother, because that's the only way it is possible, keeping the career and the profession going. I think I gave you a long answer to a short question. Any other question? Kelly?
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and talent with us. I appreciate that. Can you talk more about the research process? So after you create your invention or the science behind this, how does it get disseminated to the medical community and to other audiences? Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the stages in that process and how these findings end up becoming produced and used in the medical community?
Yeah. So there are three ways rather. One is we go to very broad conferences where the audience is diverse to give presentation. Whenever I get not whenever, I'm very selective because the kids are growing up. I can only travel so much. So in recent 6 months, I have been all over the globe basically, to give keynote or plenary in Bioceramics Society or AAAS meeting or American Association of Physicians of Indian origin. I gave a keynote talk. So, so one is presentation, giving presentation to the broader audience. Publishing in interdisciplinary journals, which is not just focused on chemistry or material science. That's what we try to do. Second. Third, yeah, we have published many journal papers. It's time that we edit or co-edit some books. That's what we have been doing for the last 4 years. One of the books that I just showed the first picture, one of those that came out in the last 4 years, we have 3 or 4 books. That is really a collection of thoughts from physicians to scientists to engineers to, we feel, and the physicians who have contributed, they also feel that it can be a great book for the first year medical student who can actually see scientific and engineering research results. At that same time, they can also see what are the physician's perspective. So these are the 3 ways I can think of. I'm sure there may be some other ways. And it is always there. The students, when they go out, get a job, whether it is more so in academia probably, but even in industry, if they are doing interdisciplinary research after their graduation, they are the next generation. If that answers your question. Yes.
This is somewhat more of a specific question, but I was wondering, as you were talking about the different surfaces that you put on your calcium phosphate or silicon oxide. Having gone through with my wife getting a new knee, and then, or first a new hip and then a new knee, one thing that caught my attention was that they used something like a glue as they put the inserts in. Now, this it changes a little bit when you go from the knee to the hip. But I was just curious how the development of these new glues influence your topical, the surface that you're using and experimenting with. Some of these glues biodegrade, some don't. And I'm just curious if this has influenced how you approach that surface element.
Yeah, when they do for example, when they do the surgeon does the hip implant surgery, they take the neck head off, literally hammer in the hip stem, and they put that glue bone cement around the metal implant. It has 2 purposes. One, it introduces bioactivity, a technical term, basically make the metal implant bone friendly. What it has is calcium phosphate, primarily hydroxyapatite, and polymethyl methacrylate polymer composite. So by putting that bone cement, it's making it bioactive. It's called cemented implant. And second, they put antibiotic in it. So when we talk about infection in implants, there are 2 types of infection. One is the primary infection, which can come between hours to days after the surgery. So that primary infection has to be taken care of with very strong antibiotic. So they put in that bone cement strong dose of antibiotic. When I was talking about silver as antimicrobial element, it's really for secondary infection control, which can come after months to year. And for any infected implant, the physicians has no other choice but to take it out, do the revision surgery. So the glue is called bone cement. It's made of calcium phosphate, the more stable phase of calcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite. Sometimes it degrades because it has another phase of calcium phosphate, which is tricalcium phosphate. That is little bit more soluble than hydroxyapatite. I didn't go into that technical detail here, but it can be made bioresorbable as well as little bit more stable. But all calcium phosphate, to some extent, they degrade in our body. So they use that ceramic along with polymethyl methacrylate polymer, which is the glue.
Question? Well, thank you all. Let's thank Susmita for her fantastic.
Thank you.